What's going on, guys? We are back with another breakdown of The Wire, this time for Season 1, Episode 7, One Arrest. We've already broken down the first 6 episodes of Season 1. We got the links pinned in the comment section, so check those out if you haven't yet. We ended Episode 6 with the Barksdale Task Force getting another month to keep the wiretaps going, so let's see what happens in Episode 7. We open up with the Barksdale Task Force listening to payphone convos, trying to understand the code words being used by the gang.
And the last part?
And the last part is something about how he's gonna start up a fashion lady or some shit.
Fashion lady?
Hey.
Once again, Prez has been the MVP in figuring out how to decipher the slang. For example, Stinkum's codename is Black. Prez has also broken the numerical code used by the Barksdales to communicate the details for a drug re-up. If you take the seemingly random numbers and flip them upside down, the message becomes clear. For example, 4 ones indicates 4 G-packs worth of drugs. Side note, a G-pack has 100 vials sold at $10 per vial for a total value of $1,000. One of our viewers wanted us to break down more of the slang and terminology, so hopefully this was helpful. Anyways, back to the code. 0 and 7 being upside down reads as low, meaning the re-up will occur at the low rises. 21 flipped upside down is 12, meaning the re-up occurs at 12 o'clock, and 5 upside down reads as S for Stinkum, so Stinkum will handle this re-up. Extremely clever by the gang, and it took Prez 5 fucking hours to figure out the code.
The inspo for the Barksdale operation, the Melvin Williams operation, used similar code features. The numbers would ID the person making the phone call and the number being used in a scrambled format like we mentioned in an earlier episode. However, the Williams crew had some pretty sloppy code words. Oftentimes the crew would refer to narcotics as beers or cans of paint in messages that were obviously about drugs, which kind of explains how they went down pretty quickly after the beepers were cloned in real life. Like, I can't imagine many people would be deceived if they're hearing messages about someone dropping off 6 packs of Busch Light.
You know, whenever you crack open a Busch Light, the mountain starts singing.
There's no place on earth.
With the re-up details on hand, the team gets ready to intercept the drugs. Stinkum will likely be joined by a runner, which will be a younger boy who is designated with carrying the actual drugs. The plan is for Herc and Carver to follow Stinkum's car and pull them over. The runner will flee with the drugs and Stinkum will drive off. However, Freeman instructs the guys to chase the runner and let Stinkum go. The reason for this is simple. If they arrest Stinkum now, they'll need to show probable cause. And since they got probable cause from the wiretaps, they would have to reveal that knowledge. Avon would find out and the Barksdale gang would go completely dark. Sure, they'd arrest Stinkum, but the real kingpin would still be out there. Instead, just snatch the runner, go back to listening on The Wire, and they can always arrest Stinkum later if they need to. Everything goes as planned. The team stakes out the re-up and sees Stinkum in an SUV with the runner. Carver and Herc pull up on Stinkum, and moments later, the runner jumps out with the drugs and flees through the low-rises. This is actually the same boy who Prez pistol whipped back at the terrace towers. Dee, Bodie, and Poot are watching and rooting for the boy to escape. Bodie even accidentally gets in the way of Herc to try and give the kid some time. The boy is fast, but he's no match for the combined teamwork of Herc, Carver, Kima, and Sidnor. As expected, 4 G-packs are in the bag. Meanwhile, Stinkum drives over to a payphone near the tower courtyard and dials Stringer's pager. Freeman is monitoring the pagers and notifies Kima. Sidnor then puts on his track shoes and quickly sprints over to a nearby rooftop to confirm the visual on Stinkum. This now becomes a monitored convo, meaning the team can legally listen to what's being said. When Stringer calls the payphone back, a panicked Stinkum tells him that the cops stole the drugs. Stringer's response is immediate.
We lost 4. Yeah, why the fuck are you telling me this?
There's some irony in Stinkum's misstep too. This is the guy who's supposed to be getting points on the package in New Territory instead of D. This is the kind of move that D got snapped at by Weebay for after he beat the charge in episode 1, only this is on a much bigger scale. I get that Stinkum is tougher and fits the archetype of a guy who would be more no-nonsense running a territory than a guy like D, but elevating him so quickly might have been a mistake.
The team brings the kid to the office to interrogate him. His name is Kevin Johnson, and as Carver is questioning him, he notices Prez and stares at him hatefully. Prez recognizes Kevin and can't handle the guilt, so he runs to Daniels' office. Daniels ends up talking to Kevin instead. Daniels admits that it was partially his fault that Kevin lost his eye. At the end of the day, he was responsible for Prez, so he bears some of that burden. But either way, the game has cost Kevin dearly. Daniels offers Kevin a choice. He can keep going down this path of destruction or change his life. Daniels hands his card to Kevin, but Kevin laughs and tosses it back.
Motherfucker thinking he can pimp me over a candy bar.
Daniel's desire to help this kid makes total sense given how he reacted to what Prez pulled earlier in the season. The failed stash raid was a sore spot, but I think what Prez and the Goon Squad did at the Terrace is his biggest moment of visible disappointment. He genuinely wants to help the community through service and improve the lives of others. Kevin's word choice, "pimp me over a candy bar," says a lot too. He's got a fair amount of anger toward these guys given what Prez did. He views Daniel's motives as less than pure. This is fair. What reason does he have not to be cynical? Kevin is supposed to be 14, not exactly the age of peak decision-making skills, and is deep enough in the Barksdale crew to be trusted on a run with Stinkum. He's in fairly deep and is essentially conditioned to be anti-cop through experience. That doesn't mean this scene isn't sad as hell though.
While the drug bust is going down, McNulty and Perlman meet with Judge Phelan. They need him to extend the wiretaps and cloned pagers for another month. He does it without much protest. We also find out that Avon's businesses go beyond Orlando Strip Club. He owns a couple of laundromats, a towing company, and a funeral home. There's also a lot more that he owns that the team doesn't know about yet, since Avon doesn't have anything in his name. While filling out the paperwork, Phelan starts shitting on McNulty, making fun of him for misusing then and then. He's doing this to try and look good in front of Rhonda, who he badly wants to fuck.
I would love to throw a fuck into her.
McNulty is annoyed and knows what's going on, but not much he can do but take it. We've all had a friend who's done this type of shit before. You're hanging out with a group of girls and that one friend tries to make fun of you to impress the girls. Here's some advice, don't be that fucking guy. You end up making you and your friends look even worse in front of everyone. Always present a strong and unified front, everyone wins.
It's the kind of move that never works out. The grammar lesson is a waste of time, and it also shows that Phelan has zero game. McNulty's the one who got her number. Phelan has always been a habitual complainer that knows how to use his bureaucratic influence to his own advantage. A good friend for Jimmy to have the ear of, but he's not exactly a knight in shining armor.
Phelan then asks for an update from McNulty, and he's surprised to learn that Daniels went against Rawls to keep the case going. He wonders why Jimmy didn't ask for his help instead. Phelan suspects that Jimmy doesn't trust him anymore, and McNulty confirms this since he still believes that Phelan leaked William Gant's murder to the newspapers.
Who dropped a dime to that newspaper reporter, Your Honor?
Phelan still denies this, and he says that McNulty has friends in the state attorney's office as well as Phelan himself. McNulty doesn't seem convinced. Bunk and McNulty continue to investigate the Gant murder, and they head to the projects where Gant was shot. Nearby, an old lady is struggling with her shopping cart, and Bunk and McNulty help out. She's no dummy and knows that they want to ask her about William Gant.
About the murder a while back, right?
She does end up talking in the privacy of her home. She actually saw the murder go down. According to her, Gant was being followed by a light-skinned, medium-height skinny man. The killer said something to Gant and shot him when he turned around. The killer was about 5 feet away from Gant at the time. Now obviously she's too afraid to testify, but McNulty says it doesn't matter. Her details match exactly what Omar said, so Omar can testify.
And you ain't afraid to go into court downtown and testify against one of Barksdale's people?
Omar don't scare.
All they have to do is find Bird, since he always has his gun on him. Bird plus the murder weapon plus Omar's testimony is enough to make the case.
Thankfully, the McNulty-Omar alliance runs strong. All of the residents of the project buildings are dealt a complicated hand. They're the bystanders of any major crime that goes down within the projects, and those who do testify take a gigantic risk. And caring less about what goes down in the projects, the BPD has essentially allowed operations like the Barksdales to run the entire premises. A lot of the residents are families, senior citizens, people just trying to get a leg up in the world. Baltimore was actually one of the first cities to implement redline policies, which deepened a lot of the segregation in the housing and made it tougher to get mortgages in areas deemed more dangerous. These were areas that almost always had a higher percentage of immigrant or black communities, and a lot of that segregation persisted unofficially as a result. It really harmed housing mobility for the black population in Baltimore.
With great progress being made on the Gant murder, McNulty and Bunk hit a local watering hole. Now, we've seen McNulty being a hound, and we know that he cheated on Elena and it resulted in a divorce.
50-50 if I don't see him all goddamn week. You see him every day, he gets
Don't curse at me. My lawyer says
Fuck your lawyer.
But his running mate Bunk is no better. The two guys are at a bar and Bunk is ravenously staring at any woman that walks by. Bunk's wife Nadine is down in Florida for the entire week. A dog has to eat. Our dynamic duo is getting sauced, downing whiskey shots and ripping cigars. Bunk is telling McNulty how to get back in Rawls' good graces. Solve the Gant and Deirdre Crescent murders so Rawls gets 2 clearances. then kiss Rawls' ass for 3 to 4 more months, then he'll be out of the doghouse. It's hilarious watching a mangled Bunk deliver this advice to Jimmy. The next part is even funnier. We learn why McNulty respects Bunk so much. It's not because Bunk is good police, because fuck that, right?
Fuck that, right?
It's not because Bunk taught Jimmy a bunch of stuff in homicide, because who cares, right?
Whatever.
It's because when the time came for Bunk to fuck Jimmy over, he was gentle. He could have bent Jimmy over the hood of a police car and went to town, but Bunk chose to be gentle since he knew it was Jimmy's first time. Insane fucking metaphor for both men to use, but when you become a homicide detective in Baltimore PD, everyone gets fucked.
Dom West, McNulty, and Wendell Pierce, Bunk, actually went out and vibed well when they were first cast for their respective parts. You just can't buy chemistry like this. Bunk plays it safer between the two, but they both take on each other's worst habits. Typical dysfunctional male friendship.
God damn it, you're gonna make me do another round.
There's a slightly haunting tone to the way McNulty delivers the last couple lines to Bunk. Is it just drunk rambling, or is there something more masked by the slurred speech and the whiskey-induced haze?
The task force then regroups to figure out how to find Bird. Bird has prior felonies, so he'll face 5 years minimum. The problem is they have no idea where the fuck he's at. McNulty and Kima work with Omar to find Bird. They stake out the towers, but Bird isn't there. And even if he was, Avon has a specific rule forbidding any of his guys from carrying weapons while at the towers.
Clean. Not a fucking thing in there.
That way, if they get snatched up by police, they won't catch a gun charge. Omar reveals that Bird actually gets high as well, just not in the towers, since Avon has a strict rule against his people getting high on their own supply. Omar says the best non-Barksdale heroin is currently out in a neighborhood called Carrollton, so there's a good chance that they find Bird there. He warns them that Bird won't hesitate to get violent, even if they are cops, so they should approach him with numbers.
Omar's insight makes all this happen. Donnie Andrews, the inspo for Omar, was an informant. While I'd resist putting a snitch tag on Omar outright, he sort of is. We just dislike Bird so much that it's cool. Bird succumbs to one of the classic pitfalls of the gangster arc, getting wrapped up in the same habits and vices that you traffic in.
The Barksdale task force waits for Bird in the Carrollton neighborhood. Sidnor and Freeman pose as junkies and hang in the corner store. Freeman buys a bottle of liquor and walks out, pretending to be drunk. Bubbles is hanging outside pretending to sell hats, but the real plan is for him to identify Bird since he's the only one who knows what Bird looks like. Bird stumbles out of a vacant house and Bubbles immediately rushes to place the red hat on him. Bird throws the hat away and keeps walking, but he's now been identified. Freeman acts drunk and waits right until Bird is next to him and then ambushes him with a bottle to the face. Bird goes to the ground and immediately the rest of the team swarms on top of him and cuffs him. Freeman finds the 380 fully loaded. Game over. The team moves Bird to the homicide department interrogation room in the minuscule chance that he rats on Avon. Landsman is particularly hilarious in the scene, taking a photo of Bird unscathed to show the jurors that no police brutality was involved.
Fuck you, fat man.
Kima takes a turn and threatens Bird with death row if his gun matches the one used in Gant's murder. Bird is an absolute animal though. He just screams homophobic and sexist profanities at Kima. This guy truly doesn't give a fuck about jail. Side note, Bird is played by rapper Fredro Starr, who is part of the rap group Onyx. I'm too young to have been around when they were popping off, but according to the older generation, Onyx was incredibly influential in the 90s. A ton of young guys went bald on purpose just to match the look. While this is going on, Bunk is talking to Omar about him testifying against Bird. He wonders why Omar is helping out. Omar says that killing an innocent civilian goes against his code.
A man must have a code.
He also recognizes Bunk from high school. Apparently Bunk was from the Edmondson area and was an awesome lacrosse player. Bunk being one of the few black lacrosse players stuck in Omar's mind. The two men bond over these old memories and then Bunk gets serious. He asks if Omar has any other intel on open murders, whether they are tied to Barksdale or not. Back in the interrogation room, Bird is still giving everyone the death stare. The ballistics come back on Bird's gun and it matches the bullet used to kill Gant. It's over. McNulty offers Bird a chance for a plea deal, but Bird is quite defiant.
Eat my shit first, you downtown white whore.
It doesn't matter though, the team has the evidence they need. McNulty steps out to leave Bird in the room with Daniels and Kima. Oh, and Landsman steps in as well. It's unwise to talk all this crazy shit to everyone when you're cuffed on their home turf. This 3-on-1 beatdown is not going to be pretty. I'll give Bird credit though, he's a tough bastard since he doesn't back down. He merely asked to be uncuffed so he can fight with his hands freely. Of course they don't grant him his wish, and the trio of Landsman, Kima, and Daniels beat the shit out of Bird. I honestly wouldn't want to catch hands from any of them.
These are the type of things that we know happen behind the scenes. It's a weird gray area because this is police brutality, but at the same time, Bird was saying some god-awful shit. You probably either think Bird got what he deserved, or what the investigative team did was messed up. It's one of many examples where Simon and Burns come up with something that gets portrayed so uniquely. You know, they ran across cases of stuff like this actually happening post or pre-interrogation given their former jobs. In a lot of the ways, these scenes become a litmus test for like how the justice system operates and if the ends justify the means. Similar to Omar snitching on him, the common theme is that Bird just takes things too far.
Speaking of Omar, he does hand Bunk more intel of another murder, a woman named Nisi who was in her 30s. She was murdered last year on the corner of Fulton and Baker. Her full name was Denise Redding. Omar gets them 2 witnesses as well as the name of the shooter. And guess who was the detective responsible for this murder? Santangelo. Don't worry guys, we'll cover Santangelo's story later on in this video. Let's now cover what the rest of the Barksdale gang has been up to during this episode. So we see Dee pulling up to Orlando's for a team meeting. Before he goes upstairs, Orlando mentions that he has a small job that he and Dee can do for some money. Dee then goes upstairs to see Weebay, Stinkum, Stringer, and Avon in a heated discussion. Stringer reminds Stinkum not to talk business on the phone, but the bigger issue is the pit. Everyone seems convinced that Dee has a snitch on his team since the drug resupply intended for the pit was snatched up. Dee rejects this accusation, but it doesn't matter. Come tomorrow, Stringer will come to the pit and give new orders on how things will go. Dee walks out feeling helpless. Avon and Stringer are still confused. Why didn't the cops arrest Stinkum? After all, they had the plates, they had the $4,000 worth of drugs leaving the truck, yet they let Stinkum go. Stink has ditched the van and no cops have approached him so far. Something fishy is going on. Now, many of the lower level members of the Barksdale gang continue to be idiots on the payphone. Lester plays a recording where Poot complains to Cass about the recent drug bust, calling Carver and Herc Batman and Robin, and specifying that Herc is fucking ugly.
Them 2 is freaks, yo. Stash finding motherfuckers popped the package from nowhere. White boy with the ball cap.
Both Herc and Carver get a kick out of this and are happy about being recognized by the dealers. Not a good sign for Avon though. Even after a drug bust, his members are way too undisciplined and sloppy.
The actor who played Carver, Seth Gilliam, did some ride-alongs along with Dom Lombardozzi, the dude who played Herc, which helped them get into the general vibe of what a chase-down sequence might feel like.
Now, it's been a few days since the Brandon murder, but Wallace has been MIA. Poot says that Wallace is fucked up and rarely comes out of his room. Orlando then shows up and proposes a business deal for Dee. Orlando has a drug supplier down in New Orleans, but he doesn't have the territory to sell it. Since Dee runs the pit, he could sell the drugs here and split the profits with Orlando 50-50. Dee's no fool and he knows this is a dumbass idea. Avon would catch them right away if they started moving someone else's drugs, but he tells Orlando, yeah, I'll think on it, and leaves it at that.
This just feels like a half-assed scheme. On its face, it's a shortcut to the top, but when you look deeper, it's not that simple. Avon and Stringer didn't get to where they were by letting others in the organization freelance their own supply, much less Orlando, who ranks somewhere between club promoter and strip club bartender on the depth chart here.
Orlando, can you help me down here, please?
Dee is hungry, his supply is being cut off, and he's being passed over a couple of times for bigger opportunities. He's also still a nephew with something to prove. It's the perfect storm. There's nobody more likely to pursue a shady business move than a man driven by his insecurities. Orlando seems a little more driven by greed, especially since he's done all the legwork for the front of Avon's club.
Speaking of Wallace, we see a sad scene where he's posted in his bando, getting high to escape from the guilt that he's feeling. This same trauma will eventually lead him to terrorize Wakanda.
Hey, Auntie.
Nah, I'm your king.
One of the downfalls to growing up fast is you often cope with whatever's the most available. Wallace has a huge heart, which is a hard way to operate within the game, which contains no promise of safety or compassion.
That same night, Stringer and Weebay arrive in the pit to double check on how the operation is being run. Dee's team has been pretty solid. They've been changing stash houses, checking vacant houses for any police surveillance, and refraining from cell phone activities. Stringer sees the 2 payphones in the pit and realizes that they must be tapped. He tells them to tear these payphones out immediately. From now on, they'll need to use payphones elsewhere. Furthermore, they are forbidden from using any payphone more than once per day.
Similar to the investigation team, the Barksdale crew operates sloppier the lower the rung gets. We've seen this plenty of times over the course of the season. Stringer, fortunately for the sake of their operation, is a whole other story. He's had a feeling something has been up for a while. He's the first guy to think outside the box in most situations, and you know he's keen on problem solving. His inspiration, Lamont Farmer, was highly intelligent and played it cool on a regular basis. He even kept up to date on legal cases to gauge possible vulnerabilities and opportunities for the Williams operation. He's only one of the inspirations for the character though.
Alright, now let's mention some of the side stories going on, starting with Santangelo. Santangelo hasn't been able to get any dirt on McNulty. Sure, McNulty is a degenerate alcoholic pussy hound, but when it comes to working murders, he's goddamn elite. Also, Santangelo doesn't want to fuck over another cop. It goes against the code.
It's not my job to fuck another cop.
This pisses Rawls off and he gives Santangelo two options. Either bring in dirt on McNulty or solve another murder case soon.
This is one of the first scenes that made me think about the parallels to the Barksdale crew structure and the police department pecking order. Rawls is leaning on Santy the same way that String is leaning on D to feed him the name of a snitch from down in the pit. Both D and Santy have had some professional struggles, though D knows how to put up numbers. They're in the mid-level tier though. D probably has more potential. I would argue that String is working for efficiency's sake, where Rawls is just pushing a fairly nasty anti-McNulty agenda. Jimmy went outside chain of command, but Rawls' main issue is that he has almost no control over what Jimmy is up to now. Your classic old school boss in a nutshell.
I got a detective out there, unsupervised, running his own special ops unit, burning me every chance he gets.
Santangelo starts looking at one of his old cases and he's struggling hard. Landsman sees this as a great opportunity to fuck with Santangelo. He hands him a card for a fortune teller named Madame LaRue, and in a deadpan delivery tells Santangelo that he should go see her if he wants to make some headway on the case. Being in such a desperate position, Santangelo agrees.
The OGJ Landsman had a reputation as a prankster on the force, so this scheme tracks. He still reminds me of an adult version of Buzz from Home Alone more and more every episode.
I wouldn't let you sleep in my room if you were growing on my ass.
I remember back as a kid before astrology popped off and before social media was a thing, there were people who I grew up with whose parents would seriously pay thousands a year for psychic readings. Whatever floats your boat, I guess. It's actually probably cheaper than therapy, so maybe they had the right idea.
Santangelo visits Madame LaRue, and as expected, she's pretty kooky. Despite Santangelo's extremely Italian last name, she guesses that he's Irish. Not a great start. LaRue hands Santangelo a statue of St. Anthony. She instructs him to go to the victim's grave, bury the statue there, wait a full hour, then dig it up. Then go straight home and before bed, hold the statue to his ear. It's either this type of shit or do actual police work, and Santangelo chooses this. So Santangelo actually goes to the cemetery and buries the statue at the victim's gravesite and waits in his car. It's a hilarious juxtaposition. While the rest of the team is doing real police work, Santangelo is performing fucking rituals. In the middle of the night though, Santangelo gets some good news. He asked for help on the murder of Martin Lindsay, but hey, a clearance on Denise Redding will do just fine. The funniest part of all of this is that Santangelo doesn't even remember the Denise Redding murder. I don't think this guy is cut out to be a homicide detective. He thanks Jay for putting him onto Madame LaRue, and Jay is disgusted since the whole thing was a joke. He can't believe that Santangelo actually fucking went through with that whole charade. Jay points to Bunk and McNulty and says,
"Fuck the gypsy shit. These are the guys that saved your ass right here."
Santangelo's appreciative and pulls McNulty aside to tell him the truth about Rawls and what Rawls wants to do to McNulty. McNulty is saddened by this and runs to the only comfort he knows, Rhonda Perlman. He shows up at her house in the middle of the night and tells her about Rawls coming after his badge. McNulty loves this job and he's gonna get screwed over. Rhonda knows how much this job means to him and she lets him in.
McNulty's looked out for Santy before. These guys really do have each other's backs. Much like McNulty, co-creator Ed Burns' captain also tried to get rid of him after he complained to his state's attorney that the unit wasn't focused enough on gang cases. Art imitates life in this situation.
Let's now jump over and see what our local junkies have been up to. After getting arrested last episode, Johnny's about to get sentenced for a myriad of petty crimes, but fortunately Bubbles has friends in high places. He arrives at court with Kima and she gets the prosecutor to let Johnny out. All he has to do is plead guilty to possession of coke and then go to rehab. Bubbles rolls with Johnny to a mandatory rehab meeting. We see a man named Waylon, a former biker gang member, talk candidly about his battle with addiction. Johnny isn't taking any of this seriously, but the meeting seems to resonate with Bubbles.
Waylon, played by Steve Earle, was actually in recovery while shooting this.
I started shooting heroin when I was 13.
Interestingly enough, Johnny, played by Leo Fitzpatrick, has also struggled with addiction himself. For a fictional meeting, this is about as real as an ambiance you can get. The actor who played Bubbles, Andre Arroyo, prepped hard for the role once he focused on the essence of who Bubbles was. He wasn't trying to play the addiction, he said, he was trying to play the person, which sounds like an incredible way to give full life to Bubbles. One time on set, Andre almost got tossed by craft services because they thought he was somebody off the street who was trying to get free food. He played the role to a T and brought a ton of humanity to the character in the process. The meeting's idea of a fresh start, making amends, clicks with Bubbles' penchant for doing good. He also finds this sense of community. Even though he's full of shit in terms of his sobriety right now, it warms your heart a little to see him light up when he gets the chip.
Yeah, we shoved off this morning.
But hey, wanting to get clean and actually getting clean are two different things. After the rehab meeting, Bubbles and Johnny do what they do best, get high. They'll need to find some clean piss for Johnny though, since he has an upcoming meeting with his probation officer.
Bit of a letdown to see them use again, but Bubbles wasn't ready to go down that road yet. Some of these scenes also remind me of a couple shots in Drugstore Cowboy, another excellent portrayal of addiction. Bob Hughes puts Bubbles and Johnny to shame with some of his moves though. I really wish we'd gotten a little more of Bub's backstory at this point to piece together how he ended up using so often, but that might be the only critique of The Wire you're ever going to get from me.
There's also a funny scene where Lieutenant Daniels attends a political fundraiser to support his wife, Marla, who's trying to get more involved in the scene. He spots Deputy Ops Burrell there as well, and from their conversation, we see that Burrell is a grimy political animal while Daniels is completely out of his depth. Burrell points out a man named Clay Davis, state senator from the 39th district. Daniels has no idea who he is, and Burrell jokes,
"You never make major at this rate."
As with many things in life, it's about who you know, not what you know. This is also our first time, but not last time, seeing old Clay Davis.
Last time we saw Daniels' wife, she gave the advice of a political operator. Daniels begins the season as more of a political operator himself. Honestly, this version of him we've seen emerge over the last couple of episodes is just way cooler and more honorable in general. Aside from the influence of Lester and McNulty, he's too good of a guy. His heart's not in it. To play the game in such a practical, climb-the-ladder type of way, you need to detach from your soul a little. Time will tell if Daniels has it in him.
Daniels ends up stumbling to the kitchen where a group of guys are watching an Orioles versus Yankees game. He meets a guy named Ashy Larry.
Ashy Larry, Marcy Project.
Wait, sorry, wrong show. I meant to say Damian Price, but he goes by Day Day. Day Day says that he would love to rob this house. He could disable the alarm system with ease, sell most of the valuables in Baltimore, and for the fine art, he could fence that up in New York. It's a funny moment when Daniels reveals that he's actually a lieutenant.
Smooth talking on Daniels' part. He feels more at home talking about the reverse angle of a robbery and the Orioles, who at this time were still a pretty bad baseball team.
Peacock sends him down swinging for the first out of the 8th inning.
Even if Day Day is on the wrong side of the law, Daniels likes talking to real people instead of ass-kissing. Donnell Rawlings with a nice guest appearance here.
Alright, that does it for our episode 7 breakdown. We hope you guys enjoyed it. Subscribe if you want to see more. We got more on the way. Catch you guys later.
Shit.